Hello, hello. This is Marsha Nathai Balkisoon. I'm a lecturer, a coach, and an author. And part of my focus is on helping people to create the joyful and fulfilling life that they want. And one of the things that my students tell me that they need the most is support on the job hunt process. And that's what sparked me to run this initial 4-part University Graduate Job Hunter series. This is the 4th of the 4 sessions. And today we are speaking about presenting yourself. So the 3 sessions that came before were in order: writing your resume, to preparing for the interview, 3, writing your cover letter. And today we're talking about something that fits with all 3 of the past episodes, because presenting yourself happens not only in person when I sit across a table from an interview panel or an interviewer, but presenting myself for the job hunt also happens in the way that I appear on paper in my applications and in the way I appear on camera if, like in these times, we do an interview virtually. So we're going to talk about when I meet somebody in person, to be greeted at the place, to be met and screened, to do certain processes with intermediaries who act on behalf of the company, for example, meeting me to do some kind of skills test. And also if I meet with the interviewer or interviewers directly. So I'll tell you as we go along with the various points that are going to come up, where these different forms of presentation of ourselves overlap and where they apply. The first thing that people see about you presenting yourself when you are looking for a job is your application. And therefore, you present yourself through the language that you use and through many other elements that appear on the page or pages that make up your application. So when it comes to language, as many of us or most of us already know, appears in 2 forms. We have our written language and we have our verbal language, our oral language. So let's start with written language. When it comes to your language in writing, if you are accustomed to texting, and in texting, you tend to write shorthand versions, LOL, SMH, etc. That's commonplace. There's a place for that kind of spelling and that kind of, so I hope you will know, and you write U as a letter U. Those things fit if we are having informal communication, and also if we are communicating with somebody that we have a certain kind of relationship with. So if I'm texting my colleagues in a group project for a university course, yeah, sure, we could be very informal and we could use all the shortcuts to spelling. And we could use all the acronyms we want. But if you were using the exact same WhatsApp or text format to write to your lecturer, or to write a response to an interviewer, or to write to somebody else who holds a formal relationship with you, then you do not spell using your shortcuts. You do not write to the person, hi, how, letter R, how are, letter U, you. That is way too informal for somebody that you have a formal relationship with. So you have to bear in mind first what relationship you have with this person and what their expectations and your expectations are. And that determines the way you phrase what you write, even in text that can be informal. In this case, the text has to be a little more formal than usual. So the way that you write, the way you frame the sentence, the use of complete sentences, you don't write IDK, I don't know. You write the full words, I don't know. Let me get back to you, etc. All right. So it's not that because your format is WhatsApp or text, that it always would be that you communicate using the same spellings and acronyms. All right. The other place that your written words appear would be in your cover letter, in your resume, in samples that you may send to them, or samples that you may bring to the table to share with them across the table in the interview, right? So you could bring samples of projects, etc. The things that really matter there are, one, and I talked about some of these as we did the earlier parts of this series, spelling. Spell people's name correctly. Spell people's job title correctly. Do not cut corners and just write to whom it may concern. Do a little homework. Find out who holds the position. What's the title of the position? Write the correct job titles and people's names. Write the correct salutations. Right? Find out if they are a man or a woman. Therefore, you'd be able to know if you write their madam or their sir or their Mrs. so-and-so, right? And the preference is always to use their name when you use the salutation. All of this, people like, one of the sweetest things for people to hear is their own name. So you want to use that in giving the salutation at the start of your application. You also show respect by addressing the letter properly. You show them that you took the time to get to know who they were, what their position is, and to address them properly. The choices you make in how you actually present the letters that you write also matter. And that means that we go back to fonts. We go back to the actual style of the letters that you write. So what fonts are you going to choose? Let me give you an extremely ridiculous example. I don't expect that anybody would do this. But let's say that you have a cover letter that you are writing, and you're writing to the interview, and you decide to put a header to say, my name is Earl Johnson, right? So Earl Johnson is the thing that appears on the top. 123 Johnson Lane, Chaguanas, Trinidad and Tobago. Phone number, bullet point or separator, email address, separator, website. And let's say that you decide that Earl Johnson is going to be written in a special font. And your choice for writing Earl Johnson is in very, very curly handwriting. Do you think that very curly handwriting, whether it's a woman or a man's name, Marsha Johnson, if you write really curly script, would that look right on a formal application? Or another example, you know, they have these texts that look kind of scary, so creepy, or what do they call it? Let's say that the font is creepy text. Would you choose creepy text with the letters actually leaking down and put your name in that at the top? Well, let me tell you, I would put my name in that kind of font if I were applying to work at a horror house. That would be kind of fun, right? But if I were writing to be an operations administrator, I definitely don't need a chiller font as the title for my name, right? As the head of my page. So you have to choose a font that represents you, because the font speaks about certain attributes and shows the font choice matches you with the job. So if you want to come across professional, if you want to come across as calm, as focused, as organized, you wouldn't want to choose a font that squeezes up all the letters together. Nor would you want to choose a font that spreads out the letters across the whole page, right? So you are going to choose your font and your space between letters and your alignment of what you write in a certain way, because that represents you. Also, some people think that there's so much writing on the page that using many fonts makes it easier to read. That's not true. It actually makes it more confusing. So ideally, you might use 2 fonts at most or 3 fonts at most, but you don't go beyond that. And you want to very carefully choose which fonts. So there are sans serif fonts, which are fonts that don't have the little lines at the bottom. And there are serif fonts, which are fonts that do have the little lines at the bottom. So familiar serif fonts that you know would include Times New Roman. Look at Times New Roman and you'll notice that at the end of strokes, they have a straight line ending them. And that sort of helps to keep the eye focused on a line going across, but it also makes the font a little bit busier. The sans serif fonts are like Calibri and Arial. So those are simpler fonts and they feel more relaxed. They feel lighter because there's less black and there's less busyness to the way the letters are written. So that's your choice. Typically, choose a serif font or a sans serif font. What you may choose to do is choose one serif font and choose one sans serif font and decide which one of those would be for your headings of sections and which one would be for the content inside the sections. And that's a nice way to set apart your various sections. Of course, you also could bold or not bold. So for example, I would take my sans serif font, my serif font, and I might make that nice and bold and put that as a heading for the section. And then I would not bold the section inside for everything with the sans serif. If I were writing job experience as my section, work experience, I would write sans serif font, serif font, bold, work experience. And then I go into where I worked, what was my job position, and when I did it, the period. That's a first subheading in that section. And I would write that in my sans serif, bolded. And then unbolded, I would write what I did. What were my results? What benefits did I bring to them? What tasks did I complete? What work did I do? What skills did I use? That sort of thing. That would go not bolded, bulleted coming down. Then I go to the next job and I would have sans serif bold again. Next job, location, the company name, next job title, next period for that job. So that's subheading number 2, which is second job. No bold on the sans serif now. And I list what contributions I made, what jobs I did, what tasks I did, etc. And I continue that way. So it becomes very structured, very easy for the reader to navigate their way down the page because your font choices in terms of your bolds, your sizes, your layouts, even your use of bullets guides the eye and helps the eye to tell the brain how the different things are organized. And it's very easy for the interviewer to read that. And what does the interviewer say when you structure it well? The interviewer says, wow, this person is quite organized. I like this. This doesn't stress me. this might be a very good person for this kind of job that requires an organized mind. All right, so simple things like your choice of layout on the page, your choice of font, those kinds of things, they make a big difference. The other thing that affects the page would be your choice of color on the page. So when I wrote my very first application, I remember thinking, how do I make my job application stand out from other people? I didn't have any guidance on how to do this. I was discovering it on my own. And I went and I bought some very special paper. And I said, okay, in the middle of all these applications, when they come to mine, they are going to find the application on linen paper, on nice sticker paper. And that's going to say to them, okay, pause and read this girl's thing. Not true. You want your paper to look professional. You want to be very structured and formal. And you don't want to use a set of different colors and a set of different textures and so on at this point. You want you to come through in the content on the page, as opposed to look for the extra oomph coming from the page itself. If I'm trying to wow you with the page itself, then maybe what's on the page isn't all that impressive. So impress them with what you write. Choose colors on the page. You don't need to use many colors. Many colors makes you look like why is this person's mind all over the place? This person is scattered. This person is confusing to me. This person does not focus well. Certainly this person distracts me through too much color on the page. You don't want to look like the rainbow exploded across your page. So if you do want color, my advice, again, similar to fonts, is limit yourself to about 2 fonts, limit yourself to about 2 colors. Black is the majority of your stuff. And then maybe for your header, where you write your name and your address and your contact information before you start the other stuff, maybe for your header, you could use your color, or maybe for your headings, job experience or work experience, education or qualifications, etc., professional education, hobbies, volunteer work, whichever sections you choose to include, you could maybe put them in color if you absolutely feel like you want color. Okay. Since we're talking about presentation of the document that we apply with, let's just continue there and then we'll come back to other elements. Your proofreading is a really, really, really important part of the way you present yourself. You come across as not very detail-oriented if you misspell people's name. If you have been applying to 6 or 7 jobs and you forgot to change something, like the company that you applied to the last time, you forget to change that name to this company's name. You forget to write the right spelling of the person that you're applying to, and you make a mistake or typo, or you just spell regular words wrong. Like instead of saying, I would like to be a part of your organization, you write, I would like to be a part of your organization. A-P-A-R-T means separate from, not joined to. And a part of an organization means I would like to belong to your organization. This is one of the misspellings that is very, very common in students now. And so I want to make sure that you all don't do that. Obviously, there are others, there, and there, T-H-E-I-R, T-H-E-R-E, T-H-E-Y apostrophe R-E, which is there. But people mix up the spellings. Do not make mistakes with homophones and homonyms. Spell correctly when you write. because that says, this person may not be the right communicator for us. We don't want this person making mistakes when communicating with our clients or irritating our CEO when he writes to our CEO, etc. And so your spelling or misspelling or your lack of proofreading, that can actually cause them to close your resume up and toss it out instead of putting it in the pile to go forward and be shortlisted. If they ask you for certain information, make sure that you present yourself by answering concisely and clearly. So for example, you have a job vacancy posting and they say that they want 5 things from the ideal applicant. And in your application, your cover letter and your resume, you treat with 3. You have left 2 gaps. People are not going to be impressed by that because they asked for proof that you have met 5 requirements. If you only show that you meet 3, chances are you're going to get tossed out and not kept in. So look at what their requirements are. This is comprehension and this is response writing, right? And then write a response to each thing they asked. Also, read beyond the words they've written on the page. Because if you can, in your response, talk about additional characteristics, skills, behaviors that you have, that would be ideal in the person they're looking for, and you can paint that picture through your words, then you are going to create more of an opportunity for yourself. All right, so your choice and the way in which you craft your response in writing really, really matters, because that paints a picture of who you are in the absence of us being able to meet you and spend time with you at the screening stage. So make sure your cover letter considers the things I've just said, make sure your resume considers it, and make sure you're very detailed, very formal, very sensible, very respectful. Now, it does not mean, formality does not mean making up big words and making up big sentences. Far too often I see people feeling like if they are being formal, that means that they have to use big words. That means they have to put on an accent. That means that they have to use longer sentences. That means that they have to almost put on a mask of I'm more serious than I am. Not true. Just be yourself. Speak in language that reflects who you are, but use proper English and use simple words as far as you can, because simple words are understood by everybody and you speak in your normal way. That's really, really important. In terms of when we present ourselves now for an interview, there are additional things. So whether you see me on screen or whether you see me in person, the way that I dress, the way that I hold my body, the way that I present my facial expressions and my body language, those things matter. So if I show up and I'm looking scruffy, if I show up and I did not iron my shirt, if I show up and I'm wearing far too much makeup, if I show up and I can't meet your eyes and I'm speaking to you, but I'm never looking at you, all of these things are turnoffs, right? If I come in and I'm hunched and I'm always looking down, then immediately people get a feeling that I'm not confident, that connection that we want is never going to be really built up, because we build connection when we make eye contact. Now, if on the other hand, I'm looking at you, but I'm staring you down for like 10 minutes straight, do you realize how uncomfortable that feels? So that also is inappropriate. So what you do is you make eye contact, and sometimes you look away and you make eye contact again. And when I make eye contact, you will notice that sometimes I smile. And when I smile, I'm being friendly. I'm showing that I'm making connection. I'm showing that I'm open. And those things matter. Don't stare down at people, blink. Simple blinking makes a difference. The way I hold myself matters. If I lean forward like this for an interview all the time, this is a sign that I'm very, very drawn in and I'm very interested. But if I do it for too long, then it can seem a bit aggressive. It can seem a bit too enthusiastic. If I do this, please don't ever do this, but I've seen so many people do this. Then this means that I'm a little bit too relaxed. And it may mean that I'm not taking things as seriously as I should. It's an interview. So maybe sit up straight, be relaxed, but have your shoulders straight. Hold yourself straight, no slouching, no bending your back. Place your camera so that you are about 2/3 high or a little higher. Do not place your camera so that piece of your head is cut off. And do not place your camera so that only your head shows. Do you see how strange it looks when it's only your head talking? So you let them see this upper part of you. And that gives them a feel. And it makes you feel a little bit more connected to the person, right? So you lean back a little, you make sure you're comfortable, you move in a relaxed way, your hands can move, your body can move, you can move your head, you can lean forward if you're really getting into talking about something, and then you relax again. Make sure you're sitting on something comfortable because your discomfort also conveys across to the person whether they could be at ease with you or not. Don't sit on a creaky chair. You'll have sat on creaky chairs before, and when you move, you're like, oh gosh, this thing creaking and it's sounding really distracting, or worse, they wonder what's that creaking sound, right? So you get a chair that you know will be quiet, will be comfortable, etc. All of this translates through you and conveys to them whether you are comfortable, whether you are approachable, whether you are able to focus on them. You don't want to be distracted by everything else, right? Your choice of colors for an interview, they matter. Now, to me, older interviewers and more bureaucratic or well-established companies may be stronger in their judgment of colors, but typically longer established companies tended to like colors like black, gray, navy blue, very formal, official kind of colors, right? So back when I was doing my first sets of interviews, you would have learned, do not wear red, do not wear bright yellow, don't be too in your face with your color choices. Today, I would say that people say show a little of your personality in your dress. Now, that does not mean wearing a flowered hat and going to sit in an interview, unless it's for a job where your flair and your style is part of the assessment. Then dress as buoyantly as you need to dress. But for the regular interview, where you're not going to be a model or you're not going to be a spokesperson or something like that, you want to dress in a way that makes you look businesslike, but you make that businesslike look a little more personalized to you. That's the way that I would say to dress. And that may mean that you would dress in a businesslike way, but use a tie that gives a little touch of who you are. Or you are a woman and so you wear a jacket, or you wear a blouse and you may put a little brooch on, or you may have a little flower, or you may have a tie that they have these special little ties where you could put a little bow, or you wear a splash of color as your inner top. So you get to choose. I've seen guys who choose to go to an interview and they would wear a salmon colored, an orangey colored, or a pink inner shirt. And that's the way that they express their uniqueness. So certainly you can put a little bit of your personality in there, but you don't want to appear in a bright yellow suit, for example, because that's a bit heavy. You have to be really, really confident to pull that one off, okay? Or a bright yellow suit with black prints or red prints of hearts all over it. Now, that's really loud, right? So you want to know exactly who you are needing to present to and how open they would be to you showing all that personality. Maybe you just want to give them a hint of the personality as opposed to overpowering them with personality. So your dress matters, the way you dress, the colors you choose, the way you put them together, letting a little of your personality shine through, because we definitely don't want a robot to come to work, right? So dress formally, yes, but insert a little bit of your personality. Be formal if the company is a formal place. But if the company is a dress down place, for example, you're going for an interview to work as a construction worker, you do not show up for an interview as a construction worker in a three-piece suit. That's going to look very weird. And people say, what's up with this person? He's coming here to be a carpenter for me, or he's coming here to be a mason for me, and he's dressed in a three-piece suit. That doesn't vibe very well, right? So you dress appropriately for the job that you're looking for. Now, it will not mean come in your sweaty mason clothes. It will mean that you want to dress in a semi-formal way. So I might just wear a clean, nice shirt and pants, and I come and I meet them and I talk to them and I have a very straightforward conversation. You wouldn't be putting on a tie. You definitely wouldn't be putting on a jacket if you're going to do certain kinds of jobs. You dress appropriately for the job that you're being interviewed for, okay? Timeliness, this is a big one. In my country and in many other countries, people like to show up late. And it almost is accepted that the people who come on time must wait until the other people arrive for the meeting to start. That is impolite to the people who made the effort to come early, to come on time. Meetings should be starting on time. When it comes to an interview, it is one of the most important times for you to show up on time, because you are being judged. And if you are not appearing in a timely manner on the most important meeting to decide if I'm going to hire you or not, then most likely the interview panel is going to say, this person did not respect us enough to show up on time, or this person is not somebody who knows how to keep time well. We are throwing him out. So you could get the interview and then that's the end. You don't show up. Are there exceptions? Certainly. There are people who get in accidents. There are people who have things happen. And those eventualities, if you call and you say, listen, something came up, let me explain, could we reschedule? I apologize. They are very understanding and they are going to help by giving you a new date. But you certainly cannot show up and just say, well, I was late for the bus. Your job is to plan for contingencies. Buses come late in some countries. There's traffic in some countries that's going to keep you back up to an hour. If that is the case, your job is to leave an hour early. Even if that means that you reach an hour early and you have to wait outside in the car park, or you have to go to a coffee house and sit down and wait for the hour and then just cross the road and go to your meeting. All right? When do you actually go to them? Let's say that you reach an hour early, which happens happened a lot with me. You reach an hour before. You do not go in the hour before and say, hi, I have an appointment in an hour for an interview. I'm presenting myself way too early. So I would say, somewhere else to wait. If you came with a car, wait in the car, or go to some other little coffee place or somewhere and sit. And when it's about 15 minutes before, 10, 15 minutes before the time, you go in and you say, okay, I have an interview in 15 minutes. My name is so, and I'm here to meet with, and you tell them the name. Most likely they're going to take you to a meeting area and they might give you a form to fill out while you wait. Or some people give you a video to watch, which is like a safety screening or something like that. So you get some basics of safety while you wait. So that's what I would advise. Don't go too early, but definitely don't go late. So you don't walk in on the dot of 8 o'clock. You want to walk in maybe 10 minutes early. When you are appearing on camera, the requirements are very much the same in terms of how you present yourself. Now, the difference when I appear in person versus on camera is, on camera, you see me somewhere up to middle of my torso. And so some people wear like pajama pants or something and their dress clothes to go to the interview. This has caused serious embarrassment to people in the past. A couple of weeks ago, I read about a guy who went to a senior meeting and what he had on was his boxers and he was fully dressed up on top, but he forgot and he stood up during the presentation he was making. And that was embarrassing for more than just him. It was embarrassing for his whole team who were forced to see him wearing boxers. You want to never have to doubt yourself. So if the interview is really important, dress fully. You are not seeing me right now, and this is not a formal interview or anything, but I'm wearing dress pants while I'm presenting. Why? Because it conveys to me a sense of importance of what I'm saying and the people that I'm saying it for. And that helps me to really ground in taking this message that I'm sharing seriously and in giving value to the people that I want to serve. So you putting some thought into presenting yourself matters, and it comes through in the way you present. Okay. However, if you are meeting people for a face-to-face interview, remember that they are going to see all of you. And therefore, you want to dress in a consistent way from head to toe, right? You want to make sure that you've cut your nails and that you are presenting yourself in a clean and organized kind of way. So your shoes need to be polished. You need to have really considered your outfit and make sure your shoes fit with your outfit. Maybe decide on jewelry. You don't want to wear too much flashy jewelry, but maybe a little bit of jewelry because that conveys that this is a formal interview, etc., etc. Maybe get a haircut, especially if you haven't had a haircut in a while. Length of pants and length of skirts and how long or short jackets are, all of those kinds of things, they count. Some people get really upset by very short skirt lengths and so on. So it might be something that you could do to look and see if you could find out about the dress policy of the place you're going to interview at and dress in the way recommended in the dress policy, if they have such a thing. And if they don't, you could always just scope out the way people dress to go to that place. And then dress like the more formal people in that place, right? So if there are people who dress in jeans and there are people who dress in pants and shirts and ties, you choose to dress in pants, shirt, and tie for the interview, right? Dress up as opposed to dress down, because dressing down could make somebody raise an eyebrow and say, this person is a little too informal. Do they not value this opportunity to interview with us? All right. So those are some of the bigger, more obvious things that could make a difference in the way that you are judged during your interview and during your presentation on paper. Your mannerisms also matter. So facial expressions, body language, etc. matter. And you can spend a little time researching more ways in which your gestures and your body language convey who you are and help people to build up connection with you. All right. To anybody who is here live, do you all have any questions that you would like to ask or any thoughts that have come up before we end our lesson today and end our session? Okay. I don't think you all have any questions. And so I want to thank you for being here with me, not only today, but for the entire 4-part series for job hunters. I hope it has been useful to you and enjoyable. And I will look forward to seeing in the recording that I post on YouTube, seeing your comments, seeing your questions, because as you share, I get to understand what additional service you need, what additional clarity would benefit you. Have a good day. All the best.